All right, next up on the stage here at Stationery Fest, I have my good friend, Jonathon Brooks from Carolina Pen Company. I could do his introduction and could probably spend 5 minutes on that, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell people what you do, the name of your company, and what you're doing here at Stationery Fest.
Thanks, Brad. So my name is Jonathon Brooks. I'm of the Carolina Pen Company, and what I make are custom fountain pens using resins that are made by myself in-house, and I kind of have a bit of a name for myself because of that.
Oh, we're going to get into that for sure. So I think let's start there with the resin making, because if you look around this room, you and I, given the decade or so that we've known each other, we're used to a lot of fountain pens, a lot of makers, a lot of different types of show floors. Well, this floor, acrylic makers are in a unique position where you might be it, I think. So I wanted to share with the Stationery Fest audience what goes into making an acrylic. What materials are you using, just how you formulate and mix and create a rod of material, which we'll eventually discuss turning that into a pen. Well, let's talk about acrylic real quick.
Okay. Imagine starting out with water clear liquid, and from there you have a infinite choice of materials as far as pigments are concerned, and it's my job to put those together in such a way that it really stands out once it's made into that pen. Where I kind of succeed the most is I kind of have a way of just creating depth and true tactileness to the material.
So I think you know the question I want to ask. What are the actual materials that go into these acrylic rods?
So I get the repeat from 2017, I think it was. So the majority of the pigments that are used in resin casting and in my field for the bespoke pen making, it's all loose powder makeup from the makeup industry. And a little bit of it comes from the custom car world with paints and some of the sparkle of chameleon effects. But yeah, most of it's just loose powder makeup.
One of the questions I don't think I've asked related to makeup, Jonathan and I talk about makeup a lot, but one of the questions I don't think I've ever asked is, what is the volume of makeup that you're actually purchasing? Are you buying like makeup by the pound?
Mostly by the pound, sometimes by the 5 pound. Sometimes in kilos, depends on the company, but yeah, the smallest quantity I'll ever buy is a pound. And that's just because with my resin making side of the business, I work with so many outside companies and make rods for them in such huge volumes that I have to have enough materials on hand to fulfill an order at any given time.
So let's take our acrylic rods that we've made from resin. You're also turning those into pens, which is what you have here available at Stationery Fest this week. How does that process work? Because you're making all of this in-house. Like, you're not sitting back ordering a product and then reselling it. You're physically making the acrylic. You're physically turning that acrylic into a pen. Tell us what the pen making process is like for you back at home.
Absolutely. I have 2 full-time jobs just with the resin and the pen making side of things. So once the resin is cured, it goes into a rod form. And then from there, I take those rods and I machine them into the pen bodies that I have on my table currently. And there is a lot of forethought that has to go into it, because depending on the model, the shape of the pen, and other factors, some materials can do better when left at a certain wall, what we call a wall thickness. And that allows for certain depths in the pens, as well as that sparkle effect. And sometimes you just want to find the perfect pattern. And when you're making everything by hand, you have that leniency to chase that.
So that brings up an interesting question. If you have an idea, so you've created an acrylic rod, you've worked on the formula, the acrylic rods come out great, you start to work with it, and you have a concept for a certain pin shape or model. So you have, how many different pin models do you have? Say five pin models. You're going in to make a certain size pin model, and you get into this acrylic, and you're like, oh, we need to stop right here. Do you ever stop in the middle and change it up into a different pin model because you've hit the sweet spot on the acrylic?
All the time. All the time. Sometimes you see that pattern develop, and the difference between perfection and total disaster is a millimeter in diameter. And sometimes you can see the way the material is going to develop if you keep going, and you sometimes don't know if it's actually going to make it there or not. So sometimes you just stop and you hedge your bets, or you just make it into a new model.
Speaking of new models, you made not a new model, but an interesting, fun acrylic for the show. And I'm going to get you in trouble right here. Are you sold out of the show pin already, Jonathan Brooks?
As of right now, I think I have one left. But yes, I used the teal from the this year's Stationery Fest logo, as well as a deep coral from the tiger lily flower, and combined the two to make the material.
And what other customizations did you do on that pen in-house?
So on the cap finial, above the clip is a metal medallion that I laser engrave in-house, and I use the Stationery Fest logo as well as commemorated it with 2024. So it's unique to this year and this show only.
So people can see your pens, Carolina Pen Company pens, at your table here at Stationery Fest. You're over here by the entrance. But they can also see some other things at some other people's tables. So I want to talk a little bit, or get you to talk a little bit about creating acrylics that other manufacturers use. Let's say Visconti, might they have some of your materials in a certain model of their pen over there for people to see?
That's absolutely correct. For here at the show, I do believe Visconti has a large selection of materials in various models. Outside of the vendors here, Leonardo, pretty much I've done a tour of Italy. I think the only major Italian company I have yet to work with is Aurora. So if you can hear that, hit me up. But in the grand scheme of things, I do work with everybody from small makers like myself to the larger manufacturers, and we work all year round on conceptualizing new materials for either based off of photographs or just general concepts. And I work with, just about every company out there.
So how do those concepts come to be? You kind of generalized it there. If one of these large manufacturers comes, they have a theme that they want to present. Will they say, just here's some colors, what can you do with this? Will they give you like an exact type of layout? Because what makes your work so good is you can manipulate the acrylics as you make them into something special, which we've all seen. How does that discussion work with like a large company like Visconti?
So luckily, the representatives of Visconti, Coles of London, their office is only about 2 hours away from me. So they have the benefit of just driving to the house, and they'll go through materials, they'll pull pigments, and we'll go through some ideas. Sometimes it's photographs. Sometimes it's, hey, I need blue, green, and yellow. And then I say, okay, well, let's take it further. What shades? Give me some, hex codes or Pantone colors, and then I do my best to match those colors and the ratios that they like. Usually samples are made, and from there we'll either tweak the recipe or it's usually good to go. Every company's a little bit different, but for the most part, I generally nail it on the first try.
Of course you do. So this is big release season. We've seen a lot of products come out. What is next? What are you excited to release? Do I have to sign paperwork to discuss? Anything you can tell us about what's coming soon? Specifically me. What can you tell me that's coming soon?
Let's see. We just released, Visconti just released the last of the Earth Origin series. That came out just a couple months ago. There's always products in the works. A lot of them I can't disclose, But I can't say, well, just expect more from Visconti, more from Leonardo, Narwhal, and I'm leaving out so many more other companies, but there's a lot in the pipeline, a lot in the works, and I've got so much work to do when I get home. It's not even funny. I'll be making resin materials throughout the rest of the year and hopefully landing early next season.
Yeah, you got to work ahead in all these things, like long lead times. All right, we'll get you out of here on this question. Do you think there is such a thing as good New York barbecue?
That's a very good question because I've yet to find it, but that's because I haven't had any yet. So I'll be nice for now. And let's just say, if it's anything like all the other food I've had since I've been here, it'll be amazing.
Man, what a good answer. Thank you, Jonathan. Hey, where can people find you here in the room and online if they want to check out your work?
So here in the room, I am at table E4, which is as soon as you walk into the entrance, hang a right, and my banner and lights will get all your attention. And then from there, you can find me online, CarolinaPenCompany.com or Carolina Pen Company on Instagram.
All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you later.